A warm welcome to all our viewers. I'm your host Pratiksha Mishra and you're watching another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show. India is back in space after 41 years and this time it's not just a journey, it's the beginning of a new chapter. Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla's successful arrival at the International Space Station marks a giant leap for India's human spaceflight ambitions. As the nation sets its sights on the upcoming Gaganyaan mission, this historic moment reaffirms India's place among the stars and signals that our countdown to a future in space has truly begun.
India has achieved a landmark in its space journey. Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla of the Indian Air Force has successfully reached the International Space Station, becoming the first Indian in over 4 decades to do so. Flying as mission pilot on Axiom Mission 4, a private space flight organized by Axiom Space and launched aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, Shukla's journey revives the memory of Rakesh Sharma's iconic 1984 mission and marks India's triumphant return to human space flight. The Crew Dragon capsule carrying 4 astronauts lifted off from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, carrying with it the dreams of 1.4 billion Indians. With the successful docking at the ISS now complete, Shukla becomes only the second Indian to ever board an orbiting space laboratory, marking a new era for India's presence in space.
नमस्कार, एक छोटा सा संदेश मेरे सारे देशवासियों के लिए। कुछ ही देर कल 1 महीने क्वारंटीन में रहने के बाद कल हम लोग लॉन्च पैड 39 से लॉन्च हुए, जहां से पहली मून लैंडिंग, जहां से अपोलो 11 मिशन भी लॉन्च हुआ था। और इस समय स्पेस में बहुत ही ज़्यादा उत्साह, बहुत ही ज़्यादा प्राउड फील कर रहा हूं। और जब हम लॉन्च कर रहे थे तो मेरे स्पेस सूट पे तिरंगा मेरे शोल्डर्स पे था, जो मुझे कहीं ना कहीं ये याद दिला रहा था कि मैं अकेले ये जर्नी नहीं अंडरटेक कर रहा हूं, बल्कि आप सब मेरे साथ हैं।
The rocket launched from Launch Complex 39A, the very site from which Neil Armstrong departed for the moon in 1969. Now, decades later, it is the launch pad for India's bold new step in space exploration. Joining Shukla on the 14-day mission are astronauts from the US, Poland and Hungary. Together they will conduct around 60 experiments representing 31 nations, adding a strong scientific component to this historic mission. Back in Lucknow, Shukla's parents watched with pride and emotion as their son's dream took flight and docked successfully in orbit.
बहुत खुशी है, बच्चे का जो है मिशन पूरा हो रहा। हम लोगों को बहुत अच्छा लगता है और दुआएं हैं, ईश्वर से प्रार्थना भी है कि उसका मिशन अच्छी तरह पूरा हो। इसके लिए हम सभी लोग, परिवार के जितने भी सदस्य जितने हैं, सब उसको आशीर्वाद देते हैं।
धीरे धीरे ही आंगन में जड़ें निकलती हैं, जड़ों के बाद पत्ते निकलते हैं, शाखाएं फैलती, सब इधर उधर फूलता। उसी तरह से हमारा बच्चा हमारे आंगन में खेला, पढ़ा लिखा, बड़ा हुआ। उसने अपने हिसाब से अपना रास्ता चूज किया कि मुझे किस रास्ते पे जाना चलना है।
Shukla's successful docking with the International Space Station has not only marked a proud moment for India but also laid crucial groundwork for the country's ambitious crewed space program, Gaganyaan. Experts opine his current mission will provide invaluable experience for future Indian astronauts and potentially even India's first indigenous space commander.
I would like to mention that for us it's a very important day because very soon we are going to have the Gaganyaan coming up in 2029 or 28 or so. At that time, some say 2027. At that time, he will be the only person who will be experienced, and he will obviously command the Gaganyaan mission. In fact, our whole team from ISRO, including the chairman himself, was there in NASA to guide the entire program, and there is an entire team over there still. So I'm eagerly looking forward to it, and I would like to salute NASA for selecting such a nice astronaut, and I know it's going to be a big success, and he's going to come back after 14 days fully experienced.
Now orbiting Earth aboard the ISS, Group Captain Shukla carries with him not just scientific objectives but the aspirations of a new India poised to enter the elite league of human spaceflight nations. His mission is more than a personal milestone, it's a signal that India's countdown to Gaganyaan and to a permanent presence in space has truly begun.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi spearheaded the global celebration of the 11th International Day of Yoga from Visakhapatnam. From the coastal waves to the misty hills of Manipur and across the border in Nepal, thousands gathered in unity under the theme Yoga for One Earth, One Health. This year's celebration not only set records but reinforced yoga's growing global resonance for wellness, harmony and inner peace.
As the golden dawn broke over the spellbinding coastline of India's Visakhapatnam city and the waves of Bay of Bengal whispered in rhythm, Prime Minister Narendra Modi led the nation and yoga enthusiasts across the world in celebrating the 11th International Day of Yoga. Addressing the world's largest ever yoga gathering, now etched in the Guinness Book of World Records, Prime Minister joined thousands of participants from India and abroad for a historic yoga session by the sea.
The theme of this year's International Day of Yoga is Yoga for One Earth, One Health. This theme reflects a deep truth. The health of every entity on earth is interconnected. Yoga awakens us to this interconnectedness. Yoga leads us on a journey towards oneness with the world. It teaches us that we are not isolated individuals, but part of nature.
While the East Coast basked in the grandeur of a global gathering, celebrations echoed across every corner of India. High in the peaceful hills of Manipur, where the clouds float close and the marching polo statue proudly stands, a symbol of Manipuri bravery and culture, the NCC cadets and officials gathered to celebrate the International Day of Yoga. Surrounded by nature's calm and beauty, the cadets performed yoga with focus and discipline, reflecting this year's spirit of unity, wellness and harmony.
All the cadets of Manipur are feeling very nice while participating in the International Yoga Day. In spite of rains, in spite of bad weather conditions, they are very, very happy. They are very, very enthusiastic to participate in the yoga activities and to spread the message of national integrity, spread the message of yoga to all the cadets and the entire population of Manipur.
The cadets described the experience as unique and deeply meaningful, emphasizing how yoga helps calm the mind and improve focus.
बहुत यूनिक है उसने हमारे हेल्थ को बहुत अच्छे से बनता है और मेंटली हेल्थ एंड फिजिकली हेल्थ रहने का हमारा अच्छा बहुत है।
हमें पता है कि योगा करने से हमारे जो बॉडी में फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी बढ़ती है और हमारे बॉडी को सुकून मिलता है योगा करने से, इसीलिए आज मैं योगा पार्टिसिपेट करने आई हूँ।
Beyond India's borders, the spirit of yoga flowed into neighboring Nepal. Hundreds of yoga practitioners gathered at Narayan Chor Park in Kathmandu to mark the day.
आज 11औं अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय योग दिवस नेपाल सरकारले आज एउटा नारा दिएको छ, एक पृथ्वी एक स्वास्थ्यको लागि योग महत्त्व अब जनजनमा पुगिरहेको छ। मैले बुझे अनुसार योग एउटा यस्तो हो तनाव शरीरलाई शान्त गर्ने, मस्तिष्कलाई शान्त गर्ने र मनलाई शान्त गर्ने एउटा व्यायाम शुभ बिहानीमा नै गर्ने एउटा योग हो। यसले नै हाम्रो जीवनको सुरुवात बिहानदेखि नै हुनेछ। त्यसैले योग गर्नुपर्छ र योगले नै एउटा समृद्ध समाज बनाउँछ भन्ने हामीलाई विश्वास लागेको छ।
International Yoga Day was officially declared by the United Nations General Assembly in 2014, following a proposal by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi during the 69th session of the UNGA. The day aims to highlight the physical, mental, and spiritual benefits of practicing yoga.
Time now for Asia This Week, the stories from across the continent.
The annual Rath Yatra of Lord Jagannath has commenced in full glory in Puri with the Grand Chariot procession already underway. Lakhs of devotees from across India and abroad have thronged the coastal pilgrim town to witness the sacred journey of Lord Jagannath, Lord Balbhadra and Devi Subhadra to the Gundicha temple. With the pulling of the majestic chariots having begun after the completion of temple rituals, the atmosphere is charged with devotion and celebration. China's Defense Minister Dong Jun hosted the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Defense Ministers meeting in the Chinese coastal city of Qingdao on June 26th. The meeting was attended by SCO member countries such as Russia, India and Pakistan. Iran's Defense Minister Aziz Nazirzadeh also attended the meeting on his first overseas trip since his country's war with Israel. Thailand's government is moving to recriminalize cannabis after taking the substance off the country's narcotics list in 2022, plunging a booming industry estimated to be worth over $1 billion into limbo. It comes after the Bam Jai Thai party, which championed its legalization, withdrew from the ruling coalition last week. Thailand's health ministry issued an order prohibiting the sale of cannabis for recreational use, making it mandatory for any retail purchase to require a doctor's prescription. The new rules will come into effect once they are published in the Royal Gazette, which could happen within days. The recriminalization push has left some in the cannabis industry stunned. Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Commander General Mohammad Pakpour warned Iran's enemies against making any mistakes during an address. Israel's bombing campaign on Iran, launched with a surprise attack on June 13, wiped out the top echelon of Iranian military leadership, killing its leading nuclear scientists and targeting nuclear sites and missiles.
Moving on. The plight of ad hoc government employees in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir continues to worsen as hundreds rally in Muzaffarabad demanding justice. After nearly 2 decades of service without regularization, these workers now face the threat of job loss. Their demands are simple: recognition, dignity, and the rights owed to any long-serving public servant. Take a look.
Ad hoc government employees in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir are staging a sit-in outside the Central Press Club in Muzaffarabad, demanding regularization after nearly 2 decades of service. Despite years of dedicated work, they continue to be denied regular status, unlike their counterparts in parts of Pakistan.
जो रियासती पॉलिसी अपनाई हुई है वो सुलियात नहीं, वसाइल नहीं, सिर्फ मसाइल हैं जिससे लोग दो चार होके कभी सड़कों पे आते हैं, कभी दफातर के आगे, कभी इस्लामाबाद तक.
Many of the protesters are braving the scorching heat in hopes of securing basic job rights. They say their youth has been spent in service and now, facing job loss, their families are left with no future.
कि ये कौन सी रियासत है, ये कौन सा कानून है, ये कौन सी हुकूमत है कि आज से 20 साल कबल जिस रियासत ने, जिस कानून ने, जिस हुकूमत ने, जिन अदारों ने इन मुलाजिमीन को भर्ती किया, इनको रिक्रूटमेंट की, इनको भर्ती किया, और आज 20 साल बाद इनकी जवानियां लेके जब ये कुछ बनने के काबिल थे, जब ये कुछ कर सकते थे, वो सारा टाइम आपने ले लिया, इस रियासत ने ले लिया। और आज 50 साल के करीब 45 साल 40 साल यानी हद उम्र गुजरने के बाद जब ये कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते, तो आप 20 साल बाद आपको याद आया कि ये गलत इनकी अपॉइंटमेंट हुई है, इनको फारिग करना है। मैं समझता हूँ कि जुल्म है, और कोई भी रियासत, कोई भी ऐसा कानून मैं समझता हूँ कि समाज के अंदर, इंसानी समाज के अंदर जो है वो काबिल कबूल नहीं है।
Over the past year, repeated protests have highlighted the deepening frustration among ad hoc employees in POJK.
In a country already plagued by chronic poverty, food insecurity, and a collapsing human rights framework, Afghanistan now faces yet another looming crisis, with tensions escalating between Iran and Israel. Threatening one of Afghanistan's key trade corridors, the Taliban-led administration is turning to Russia for food supplies. But while the leadership points outward, the true roots of the crisis lie within. A government that has failed to uphold basic freedoms, invest in long-term resilience, or protect its own citizens. A report.
After decades of conflict, foreign occupation, and now 3 years under Taliban rule, Afghanistan remains one of the most food insecure nations in the world. The collapse of the previous government in 2021 triggered not only a political vacuum but a deepening economic and humanitarian crisis. With majority of Afghans living below the poverty line, the country relies heavily on food imports, particularly from neighboring Iran, a lifeline now threatened by escalating tensions in the region. Iran has long served as a key trade partner for Afghanistan, supplying essential goods like flour, cooking oil, and fuel. However, with the spectre of a wider conflict between Israel and Iran looming, these trade routes are under threat. Any disruption could quickly push millions of Afghans deeper into hunger. Against this backdrop, the Taliban government has turned to Russia in hopes of securing alternate food supplies, particularly wheat. The move reflects not only a shift in Afghanistan's geopolitical alliances, but also the vulnerability of a nation whose domestic agricultural production remains insufficient despite repeated promises of self-reliance.
تقریبا در بخش تولیدات غنم خود ما هم 4 سال می شوند که بعد از خروج امریکایی ها با همه سعی تلاش کوشش میکنیم که تا که مواد خوراکی ضرورت خود تهیه بکنیم و بقایا که از طرف روسیه سالانه دما آرد و گندم می آیند. ما پیشتر با امرای معین صاحب وزارت زراعت فدراسیون روسیه دیدن کردیم. در این باره هم با امرایشان صحبتایی داشتیم، از ایشان تقاضا کردیم که در جای آرد برای ما گندم بتین و همچنان در ارتباط دیگه محصولاتی که از روسیه سالانه به ملک ما می آیند انشالله و به خوبی پیش می روند و در آینده هم با هم گام به گام پیش می میریم.
Afghanistan's agricultural sector suffers from outdated infrastructure, drought, and underinvestment. Decades of war, combined with the Taliban's current restrictions on civil society, have also discouraged foreign aid and private sector investment that might have bolstered food systems. Moreover, the Taliban's continued refusal to improve its human rights record, including the systematic exclusion of women from education and employment, has isolated the regime internationally and deepened the economic freeze. International donors have withheld billions in aid, further weakening Afghanistan's ability to feed its population through either local production or trade. The Taliban expresses concern for the suffering of civilians in Iran. Yet, it has done little to address the worsening conditions faced by its own population at home.
ایران همسایه ما هستند. یک مرز دور درازی بین هم داریم. هر نوع آسیبی که اونجا پیش می آیند ما بالکل خوشایند نیست برای ملت مردم ما و خصوصا هم زیاد عده مهاجرین ما اونجا گذاره دارن و برادرای ما هستن. هر نوع تکالیفی که بر بالایشان می آیند مسلم است که اصلا تکالیف هیچ بشری ما راضی نیستیم و بر بالای اونایی که این تکالیف جنگ تحمیل شده و از دنیا خواهشمند هستیم که جلو و همچنان تجاوزها را بگیرن.
While Taliban officials insist that they are striving for agricultural self-sufficiency, the ground reality tells a different story. Erratic rainfall, lack of irrigation infrastructure, and poor governance have crippled local food production.
بالکل البته افغانستان هم سعی تلاش خود دارن که در بخش محصولات خوراکی خودکفا باشن. باز هم مواد خوراکی های داریم که از ایران می آین اونجا مشکلات ها باشن مسلما و تاثیرات خود خواهد داشت.
With no functioning democratic system, no roadmap for economic recovery, and no willingness to restore fundamental rights, especially for women and minorities, the Taliban regime remains both isolated and incapable of delivering basic security, dignity, or sustenance to its people. As trade routes threaten to close and crops continue to fail, the country edges closer to a full-scale humanitarian disaster.
The Taliban looks to Russia for food, while Afghans look to them for accountability. And with that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Till then, goodbye and take care.